Entitled Women of Today's Search for Attention and Validation leads them onto Highway 304, the Cheater's Highway. Wednesday evening. During conversations over the past several years, my wife has regaled me during dinner with tales of gossip from her office. Some stories were of the possibly fiction adventures of girls' night of the other women in the business. I asked about these girls' nights and informed it was only drinks and blowing off stress after a hard work week. I made it clear where I stood about girls' night. Call me old-fashioned, and that's fine by me. I was raised in a small town where everyone knew everyone's business. My parents enforced in my brothers and I, simple rules such as, if it feels wrong, it probably is wrong. And my favorite was married people have no business in bars. Only cheaters and drunks are in bars. After graduating from college, I worked as a manager for a corporate restaurant chain where I managed a nightclub. I have seen cheaters and predators work in bars up close. I had hoped that I would never have to have this conversation with my wife. I thought I was clear. After dinner, our teenagers went upstairs to do whatever teenager boys do, when Nita came over and sat beside me on the sofa where I was flipping channels. "Honey, do you care if I go out with the girls on Friday night?" "Of course, I do," was my reply. I put the remote down, and turned to face her. She smiled. "Honey, they're not like what you think." I countered with, "Of course, they are. They are married women going to bars and nightclubs where they pretend to be single teenage girls again, and F men other than their husbands. Everyone says that they do get their motors revved up, but they go home and screw their husbands for all it's worth." "Bullshit," I said. "And how did they get their engines revved up? Kissing men not their husbands, touching men, or being touched by men not their husbands?" I thought a second. "And, you know that Shirley's alcohol problem started from her going to a girls' night. If she had never started going, she probably would never have become an alcoholic." Nita started running her fingers over my junk, feeling it start to rise. "But, I want to go. I'm 40, and the girls think I need to see that I'm still pretty and sexy." I was not getting any happier. "So you want other men, other than me, telling you that you're sexy and beautiful? Don't I do that enough?" I took her hand off my crotch. "You have to say that, you're my husband," was her reply. Grr, I thought. I don't have to say those things, I say them because they're true. I stood up to go to our bedroom. "I will give a chance to make the right decision. I will not stop you from going with the girls on Friday, but you will not like the consequences of doing it." Conversation over. Friday evening. Nita smiled at herself. She looked good in her little black dress. Her neckline showed a hint of cleavage, and the hemline was short, but not too short. She picked up her clutch, and placed it under her arm as she picked up her keys. She walked down the hall from their first-floor master suite. "Honey, I'm off." I walked out from the downstairs bath applying aftershave on my fresh-shaved face. I was dressed in my best black suit. My clothes perfect, my hair perfect, and my smile perfect. Shock was on her face. "Why are you dressed like that?" Now anger was starting to show. "I'm going out tonight, also." I tugged my shirt sleeves down my jacket cuffs. "If you think I'm staying home while you go out with the 304s from work, then you are sadly mistaken. If you can go act like a single woman, then I can act like a single man." With that said, I walked past her, entered the garage, and drove away. I was apprehensive as I entered the first club. The men in suits were in the minority. I was trying to look successful, not desperate. I was leaning against the bar watching the room. There was a table of 4 young women looking at me. Almost finished with my first drink when a little blonde came from that table and approached me. "Do you dance, or are you here just to look?" Taking her hand without a word, I led us onto the dance floor. I used to love to go dancing when I was single. I found that I missed it. I told her my name, and she was Miranda. After 3 dances, she invited me back to their table. Several rounds of drinks were bought by me over the next few hours. I danced with all the women. They were young and single. Did I mention, hot? Susanna, Double D, and Kara were the other women. Double D was this little woman with large breasts, who was braless. Lord, those 24-year breasts were bouncing everywhere as we danced. unknown at the time to me, but my wife and her 4 friends, and I don't believe that a real friend would try to destroy the other women's happy marriages, had entered the nightclub and were looking for a table. Susanna and I were ending a dance and making our way back to the booth where Miranda and Double D were waiting when Suzanne noticed my wife staring at us. "I think she knows you." At the booth, I looked around until I found Nita looking at me with fire in her eyes. I waved, and sat down beside Miranda. My eyes watched them as Nita led her group straight to our booth. "Would you like to join us?" I asked upon their arrival. My group scrunched over to make room except Kara, who had left with a young man, which made a little more room. Nita's friends started sitting down. They were unaware of who I was. My wife stood beside me and looked down on me. "What do you think you're doing? You are a married man." "Well, don't be so shocked, my lovely wife. I told you that if you were going out and acting like a single woman there would be consequences. These are some of the consequences. If you can act single then so can I." The thought of her slapping me crossed my mind. Looking at her seated friends, I asked, "Which of you talked my wife into throwing away almost 20 years of marriage to going slut-ting around tonight?" Blank stares and no answers. "Where are your husbands? Are they sitting home with the kids while you mess around, or are they at home effing your babysitter while you F some stranger tonight?" That got me the slap. Double D asked a question that would explode the table. "Do you women have open marriages?" She smiled and looked at me, then Nita. "If you have an open marriage then I can't wait to sleep with John tonight. If he F's like he dances, I might be in heaven." Nita shook her right fist at Double D, then stormed off. I watched as she exited the building. "She's our ride," said one of her friend group. They started to race after her, but I stopped them. "Stay, have some fun, and I'll take all of you to your houses in a little while." I danced at least a couple dances with each of her friends over the next 2 hours. They were sluts. Where Miranda's group danced close but understood that I required a barrier between us, Nita's friends knew no barriers. They pressed their uplifted cleavage into my chest, and everyone touched or grabbed my crotch on the dance floor. Miranda was happy to use my phone to document for me from the table. Especially how the friends danced with other men in the club. The bus route of taking the friends to their homes was filled with "Do you ever cheat? Would you like a side piece? Why would Nita go out with us when she has you at home? Do I get a good night kiss?" Inside, I felt the urge to kick them out. As I had attempted to stay trim and healthy without going to the gym, because I wanted Nita to be proud of me. They made it seem that their husbands were fat and lazy while the clubs were filled with fit trim studs waiting to make their nights before they going home to Mr.'s EX on Saturday night. It seemed, and I knew it to be true, that some men do get fat and complacent after they got married. My parking spot is in the driveway, and I entered the front door to the beast of hell. Still dressed in her LBD, Nita stood drinking a very full glass of wine. By the look of bottle on the coffee table, she had partaken of most of the bottle. The argument began as accusations flew from both sides. She could not understand why I wouldn't stay home like the other husbands. "What's good for the goose, is good for the gander," was my reply. The discussion quickly became about my new friends. I grabbed her by the shoulders and sniffed her deeply. "Before you say anything else, maybe you explain why you smell of smoke and men's cologne?" Staring at me. "I don't know what you mean?" she questioned. "You smell of men's cologne. You had some man holding you close enough to leave his scent on you. So you failed the husband test tonight. If you want to continue this, the consequences will be harder." Putting my phone into her hand. I have quite a few videos on my phone of the sluts you call friends, if you want to watch them. You may want new friends because every one of them grabbed my dick tonight. She called me a liar. As I went to shower. To say that things were cold for the next few days is an understatement. The next Wednesday afternoon, I received a text from Nita that she was going to dinner with the girls and would be home by 9. Miranda was a personal trainer, and had offered to help me if I wanted to buff up a little, so she had given me her card. I called her and offered to make dinner for her and the other girls if they wanted to come over. Single ladies will hardly ever turn down great home-cooked meal. I grilled steaks with homemade mashed potatoes, and salad. My sons were in heaven as we sat around the dinner table. They could not keep their eyes off Double D's attributes. Me either. When I told them we were having company for dinner, they thought old fat men from the office. Surprise, it's hot babes. My wife went nuclear when she came in sometime after 8:30. We were all laughing and enjoying each other's company around the table. I sat leaning back at the head, to my right was Miranda and Susanna, while to my left were my two sons with double D between them. "What are they doing here?" shouted my wife. Smiling, I replied. "You had dinner with your friends allegedly, so I had dinner with mine. The boys made new friends tonight, too." I waved my hand to the end chair at opposite of mine. "Join us." She huffed, and stormed off. She was just not getting the hints. Another week passed, and Friday approached. I was dressed in my favorite business suit, and ready to leave for the evening while I waited to see what Nita was going to do. She came into the living room wearing the shortest skirt that I didn't know she owned with a scoop neck sweater that showed too much cleavage. Her bust line was not big, but this top made it look like it was. "I see that you now looking the part." Her look of hatred focused on me. "I'm not ASLUT. Not for me you're not, but for other men, it sure looks like you're ASLUT. If it walks like a duck." I stopped. It had now been over 3 weeks without sex. She was withholding sex because I didn't like what she was doing. She was also withholding sex because I was a friend with several hot young ladies. She knew my core values would not allow me to cheat on her. She didn't know that I had something in my pocket besides my wallet. Tonight was the first official night of the end of our marriage. We walked into the garage, and I opened the door. As she was getting into her SUV, I asked, "You can stop this now, and maybe, in time, we can get back a little of what we had lost." She flipped me off, and shut her door. When I arrived at the Spinnaker, I waved to from a round table. Miranda stood waving her right arm. I waved back. At the table, I saw that we had extra people. Miranda made introductions. Dee Dee has her visitor and Kara has a date, so I asked my mom, Autumn. She pointed to a mature, curvier version of herself with shoulder-length reddish-brown hair. And her bestie, Cheryl Lynn. An attractive, mature woman that didn't mind having silver curls cascading down her shoulders. As dinner progressed, it was obvious that Susanna and Miranda had educated the mature ladies on the status of my life. I laid out my plans for the evening, how we would go dancing and enjoy each other's company, but I wanted cell phones handy to record the evening if we crossed paths with Nita's bunch. At the first club, I danced with the 4 ladies, fast and close. Autumn was the most sensual dance partner that I had ever danced with. She confessed that she was a dance instructor, and I confessed that I had always wanted to learn to really dance. She promised to teach me. Miranda said that Susanna was bored, so we went to the next club. It was close to midnight when we entered the club. I felt a little elbow in my ribs. Miranda pointed to the dance floor. Shock and disappointment, as I saw Nita dancing a close slow dance with some young guy while kissing him. Not enough space to push a credit card between them. "Ladies, cameras on." I handed my cell to Autumn. "Miranda, I need your help to separate them. You pull Nita backward, and I'll take care of her lover boy." 3 cell phone cameras followed Miranda and I as we beelined to my wife. Nita was grabbed from behind by Miranda and yanked backward, and they fell to the floor together. "Hands off my wife," I yelled as I pulled lover boy backward with my left leg behind him to trip him. Lover fell backwards onto the concrete floor while I swung my right leg over his crotch and slammed my knee into his junk. Once he was on his back, I struck him in the throat, then I began to rotate punches to his face. Left, right again while screaming at him that he needed to leave married women alone. More cell phones popped out with people wanting to maybe get a viral video on YouTube. Everything went swimmy as I felt something smash into my head. Beer bottle, maybe? Then I remember being pushed off of lover boy, and several feet kicking me in the head before I curled up on the dirty floor to minimize the damage. This suit is probably ruined. 2 big burly bouncers broke it up, and one helped me get up. My nose was bleeding. I explained the situation of how I found my wife being accosted by the young man holding his junk while trying to breathe through a broken nose. Nita began to barrage me as how I had ruined their night. The bouncers told us that we all had to leave. My group, Nita's group, and the 3 young men. "Why do we have to leave?" demanded my wife. Miranda smiled and said, "Grandma slut," he said all of us. Nita slapped Miranda, and Miranda punched Nita square in the nose. Nita held a Kleenex to her nose as all of us exited into the cool night air. I asked the bouncers, "Is there an issue with me kicking these guys' asses out here?" "Nope, as long as it's outside this building. Parking lot is fair game." He closed the door smiling with a wink. Loverboy's two buddies were a short sandy-haired guy, and a tall skinny guy like me. As I walked toward Sandy as he helped Loverboy stand, I threw a hard right into his face, knocking him and Loverboy to fall against a Nissan parked behind them. Tall boy came at me swinging his right fist. I grabbed his right wrist, and twisted his arm behind his back, then I slammed him against the hood of the Nissan. Holding his arm with my left hand, I punched him over and over again in the kidneys. I flopped him over, and slammed my right fist into his breadbox, pushing the air from his lungs. "You boys need to learn to leave married women alone. There might be worse husbands like me out there." Then I gave him one in the face for good measure. As I turned toward the women, who all stood behind me, I hear Cheryl say, "God, I am so fucking hot right now. Fuck, what a man." I smiled at her. God, I love a man that's a protector. A man that fights for a woman's honor is so fucking sexy. Nita gave her the stink eye. Cheryl smiled a cunning smile as she spoke. "Don't look at me like that. You have thrown him away for some strange, and I am calling dibs. I will F him until he can't stand." Miranda intervened with, "Sorry, Auntie, but Dee Dee has called dibs." Cheryl cupped her large bosom. "Mine are a lot bigger." Autumn, Cheryl, Miranda and Susanna laughed at that. Nita's group stared silently as I walked over. "Cameras, please." My lady friends held their cameras up quickly. Reaching into my jacket pocket, I retrieved a folded envelope. I lightly bounced it on Nita's chest. "Here, this is yours. You have been served." Shock. "What?" came from Nita's mouth. "Divorce papers, Nita. Now, you can go out and kiss, and dance, and bang all the young guys that you want. I told you that you would not like the consequences. You haven't tried to make it up to me, say that it was wrong, or have pity sex with me for close to a month. Obviously, these hoes from work are more important than me and the boys. There is a key in the envelope for a mini storage. While you've kissing and effing young guys tonight, I had movers take all of your belongings to storage. Don't come home tonight, we are through." She would not take it, so I took her right hand and pushed the envelope into her hand, and walked away with my group except Autumn. "Miranda, would you call me an Uber, please?" As I looked back, I watched a woman that I barely knew holding my wife as she cried. Nita's friends did nothing but briskly walk away to their cars quietly. As I drove the ladies back to their cars at the restaurant, I wouldn't realize that Autumn still had my phone until Miranda brought it to me the next morning. "Mom, recorded something for you." She smiled sadly as she walked away. My coffee sat before me on my desk in my home office. I held the phone and started the recording. Miranda had been good enough to have it ready to play, so I didn't have to scroll through last night's recordings. The recording began within their Uber. Autumn told the driver to take them to an all-night diner on 6th. Most of that audio was Autumn comforting Nita as she cried. I think she finally was getting the hint. Autumn ordering 2 coffees and apple pie a la mode for them to share. As I listened to the recording, I had to smile at this intervention from someone that I barely know. Autumn started with, "Nita, can I call you that? We don't know each other, but I would like to welcome you to the Divorcee Life Support Group, where you're going to meet a lot of men who will F you, but will never care anything about you other than you have a free easy sex for them to use. They don't have to take care of your kids, take out the trash, buy you dinner only if they want to or have enough money to do so, and they never have to buy you presents for your birthday or anniversary. These men will lie to you constantly from a simple, 'You are so pretty' to the 'I love you' just so they can shoot their stuff inside of you. Just so you know, these young men today expect you to swallow, and for some godforsaken reason, young men today want butt stuff, so you better learn to like it. Honestly, I've been where you are. I am a dance instructor and I get hit on by men all the time. Not so much now that I am older, but 10 years ago, I became enthralled with a dance student. He took me to coffee after his lesson, we met for lunches. Miranda's father asked me to stop, and I refused. I felt that I was entitled to this relationship. I wasn't going to have sex with him. My friend told me that my husband was insecure, But I was too stupid to see that I was cheating on my husband and my daughter because I didn't know I was. My husband gave me an ultimatum. I told him that I wasn't his slave and I could do what I want. She sounded sad. Now, it's almost 9 years since the divorce. I live a lonely existence. Nights like tonight with my daughter are the highlights. I got tired of the being with men that didn't care if I was satisfied as long as they were. But enough about your future loneliness that is quickly coming. Your husband is a freaking unicorn. He won't be lonely. Apparently, he has a great job, loves his family, is loyal, honest, and trustworthy. He is so handsome. Women will be lining up for him. Here's what's going to happen while you start doing every young man you meet at the clubs, and those guys are not winners. I know. John is going to have his brains hammered out by Dee Dee for a month, then either Miranda or Susie will get their shot at him. In 4 months or so after he tires of their hot firm young bodies, he might decide to expand his horizons and date some black ladies, maybe Asians, or Hispanics. Maybe all the above. He might venture into tall women, plump women, short, tiny women, women with huge boobs, or maybe flat-chested ladies. I don't know what he fancies. Then, in a year, I will swoop in and make him mine. I am letting you know up front what I intend to do. Nita is heard crying as she speaks. Why are you doing this to me? Poor girl. You did this to yourself. You threw him away, and I plan to catch him. You have disrespected John, as a man and a husband. I'm sure that when you're with your trashy friends there are people that he does business with that have seen you out and not acting like his wife. When he is mine, I will do everything I can to keep him. I won't disrespect him. I will be submissive to him. I will make sure that he knows that he is loved by my actions, words, and my body. I will dress sexy for him at home. I will not go out looking better than I look for him. I will make him my all. Girl, we're aging. I'm probably 5 years older than you. I know that I have maybe 7 to 9 years of comfortable sex left. You may be 10 to 12. As menopause approaches, sex will be uncomfortable, so if I have to give John oral to keep him happy, I will do it with love. At dinner tonight, we discussed your situation. I explained mine, and he, yours. It seems that you have been withholding loving because he doesn't like the person that you're becoming. You haven't said you're sorry about wanting to destroy your family for some cheap excitement. As if to avoid her statement, Nita came back with, "Your daughter called me grandma slut. I am not a grandma." She grinned as she looked at my wife. My baby calls him like she sees him. Look at you. Obviously, you bought that slut outfit for tonight. You look so desperate, too desperate. In my opinion, you have withheld loving from John, so that tonight, dressed as you are, you get effed and blame it on John since the two of you haven't done it for nearly a month, and you had a need. Am I wrong? After a pause, take a picture of yourself, and see how you look like a grandma trying to be a teenager. When we look in the mirror, we don't always see ourselves as we are for some reason, but a picture doesn't mask anything. Do I really look that bad? Nita asked. Autumn replied, "You kinda do. What should I do?" Nita whispered. Autumn answered, "I don't know about you, but I would beg his forgiveness if he has any for you. I would dedicate myself to making John happy. Whether it's intimacy or his favorite meals. Send your teenagers out for the night, and meet John at the door, and rock his world. I don't know if that will work for you. You disrespected him. Respect is as important as sex to men, and you violated his trust. He won't trust you anymore. He saw you tonight throwing yourself on that young guy. He knows that he can't trust you ever again." After a pause of maybe 10 seconds, Autumn spoke again. "You need to get better friends. Those bitches wanted to ruin your marriage, and they succeeded. I know that John gave you that recording from when he took them all home a few weeks ago. I listened to it, and I would have been pissed if I was you. Every one of those bitches offered to F your husband. You might like that in a friend, but I don't they did that? Didn't you play the recording? No, I was too mad at him for going out with those young girls. Women, they are not children, Nita. And those women saw what a catch he is, when you couldn't see how attractive he is to other women." She continued with, "You need to get over that horseshit, feminist crap about what you need and how you don't need a man, and how you deserve to do what you want, because since he's been going out when you go out, he has learned what he deserves. He deserves the attention of pretty ladies that respect him, and want to earn his trust. You can't put that back in the bottle. Honestly, Nita, why would he want you when he can have his pick of women? You're old, past your prime, he doesn't need you to bear his children. Based on how I see you spend his money, he's probably better off without you." The recording ended with Nita sobbing. I made her move into the guest room. Our sons knew that she had been hateful toward me and them for the last month, so they weren't surprised that I kicked her out of the master bedroom. She begged for forgiveness. I am making her work for it. We will not have sex until her STD test comes back. I don't trust that she hasn't cheated. She says she didn't, but I can't trust her. I won't kiss her yet because she gave what should have been intimately done with me to other men, and I have the video to prove it. There have been no more girls' nights, and it seems that she has distanced herself from her friends. I'm glad that she and I have become friends with Autumn and Cheryl. The fact that Autumn's honesty keeps reminding Nita what she did was wrong, and the fact that Cheryl asks every week if I can F her yet, has made Nita up her game. It's been 6 months, and things are better, but different. I know that it will take me more months or maybe years before I can trust again. I can't trust my wife the same way as before. I wonder every time she goes out, who she is with. Did she lie to me about shopping? Is she really at lunch with friends? In counseling, she confessed that she never had intimacy with any of the men, but she did enjoy the excitement of their touching each other. Yes, she did touch the men there. She was shocked the first time that I went to lunch with a pretty coworker when she went to lunch with a friend at her favorite lunch spot. She should be shocked if I don't do it also. She goes out, I go out. Shocker,